The Abernathy Files. Episode 3, The Path to the Forbidden, a story by Carl Otto. The morning light filtered softly through the window of Peggy Abernathy's bedroom, casting a warm glow that barely penetrated the shroud of unease weighing heavily in the air. Millbrook was silent in the aftermath of the chaos, the echoes of that horrific night lingering in the corners of every room in shadow. Outside, the leaves rustled gently in the crisp autumn air, a sharp contrast to the turmoil within her heart. Peggy sat at her old desk, where countless hours had been spent completing homework assignments and daydreaming about the future. Now, it stood cluttered with remnants of a reality turned upside down, scattered notebooks filled with frenzied notes, a leather-bound book that exuded an otherworldly energy, and a half-finished cup of cold coffee that had long since lost its appeal. She stared at the book, its cover etched with arcane symbols, drawing her in with an unyielding pull. Closing her eyes for a moment, Peggy took a deep breath, attempting to gather her thoughts. Images of her father's worried face, the frantic chaos of the church, the mist that swallowed not just the night, but also the people who had vanished into it, flooded her mind. Tom's laugh echoed faintly, a haunting reminder of the last time she felt safe. Now she mourned not only for him, but for the countless others whose absence had forged a rift in the town's fabric. Each breath felt heavier as she reflected on the chilling fact that several families were still waiting for news, holding on to hope that those lost somehow survived. But Peggy knew better. She understood the events of Halloween had changed this town and her forever. And at the center of it all lay the cult that had spiraled her life into chaos. With a renewed sense of determination, Peggy opened the leather book, its pages whispering with the secrets of centuries. She recalled the old woman's haunting words, how the veil between worlds thinned and shadows crept forth. What was she meant to unveil? Which direction will she go from these fragments and clues? Determined to forge ahead, Peggy turned her attention to the pages, tracing her fingers over the incantations and spells inscribed within. They felt alive, pulsating with power. A power that hinted at answers she so desperately sought. Clarity and confusion danced in her mind, battling for dominance. But one thing was certain. She could no longer be a passive observer in this unfolding nightmare. She has to take an active role and find answers. Peggy leaned forward, her heart racing, and began to sift through the pages of the leather-bound book. It smelled ancient, the scent of worn parchment and secrets lingering in the air. She flipped through the delicate pages, each turn revealing a new glimpse into a world that felt both foreign and terrifyingly familiar. Her gaze caught on an illustration of a figure cloaked in shadows, surrounded by swirling mists. Invocation of Revelation, it was labeled. The lines of the illustration seemed to ripple as if alive, beckoning her to dive deeper. With each spell she read, the weight of her purpose began to settle in. She reached for a well-worn notebook and started jotting down the names of the rituals and symbols she found alongside the descriptions. Her pen scratched across the paper, the rhythm steadying her racing thoughts. As she read about simple invocations and intricate rituals, Peggy felt the book's power resonate within her. The allure of knowledge called to her, a siren song that promised answers to the chaos swirling around her. She noted a few spells designed to seek understanding, each one more complex than the last. Among them, some mentioned the cult of Drevar and their intentions, revealing cryptic phrases that hinted at dark, unfulfilled desires and ancient rites performed in the shadows. Could this really be related to Millbrook? She murmured to herself, flipping through the pages until she found a section entitled Echoes of the Past. Distant whispers grabbed her attention, pulling her down a rabbit hole of historical accounts laced with tragedy. Rituals gone awry, and the toll they exacted on the town and its people. Some notes seemed to reference unexplained phenomena and events that coincided with arcane happenings mentioned throughout the book. Peggy's heart quickened as she absorbed every detail, information she had long suspected but never fully understood. It all felt too interconnected, as if she were grasping the frayed edges of some immense tapestry of horror. Suddenly, a passage caught her eye, its words flickering with latent energy. In times of great distress, when the veil thins and the night whispers secrets, the key to understanding lies beneath the earth, buried where shadows recede. Her breath caught in her throat. A handwritten note in the margin captured her attention. It simply read, 303 Maple Street? With urgency filling her chest, Peggy quickly grabbed a worn map of Millbrook from a nearby drawer. She spread it out on her cluttered desk, the familiar lines of the town's roads unfurling before her. Her eyes darted across the map until she located Maple Street, a small, unassuming road that wound through a quiet part of town. As she traced her finger along the mapping lines, she noted that 303 Maple Street was only a short distance from Main Street, not far from her own home. Her heart raced with anticipation. Each piece of information felt like a puzzle snapping into place, giving her purpose. Perfect, she whispered to herself, folding the map and tucking it into her jacket pocket. Just as she was about to step out, the sound of her mother's voice stopped her in her tracks. "Peggy!" her mother called, entering the room with a furrowed brow. "Where are you going?" "I'm just heading out, Mom," Peggy said casually, although her heart raced. "Just heading out?" Her mother stepped closer, arms crossed tightly. "You know how I feel about you going out alone right now, especially with everything that's happened. The missing people, Peg. It worries me." Peggy took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "I'll be fine, Mom. I just need to—" "No, you listen to me." Her mother's voice sharpened, an edge of control creeping in. "You can't keep doing this. You don't know how dangerous it is out there. Everyone's on edge, and with Tom missing, I just can't bear the thought of losing you." "Mom, I'm not going far." Peggy tried to keep her tone even, not wanting to provoke her mother's fears. "I just need some fresh air." "Fresh air? I don't want you wandering around town, especially not alone," her mother insisted, worry deepening in her expression. "I know you need to get some air, but I want you to be safe first." Peggy felt a tug of guilt at her heart. "I understand, but I really need to go out, just for a bit. I'll be careful, I promise." Her mother softened momentarily, but the concern lingered. "You can't take unnecessary risks, Peggy. Please just promise me you'll check in. Call me if you need me to come get you, okay?" "I will, Mom," Peggy promised, though her mind was already racing ahead, thinking of the secrets waiting to be uncovered. With a tender hug, her mother stepped back, reluctantly allowing Peggy to continue on her path. As she stepped outside into the cool autumn air, the weight of the leather-bound book felt reassuring, steadier than her trembling hands. The names of the missing townsfolk echoed in her thoughts, adding weight to her resolve. She wouldn't be able to sleep at night until she sought the truth, no matter how dark or devastating it proved to be. As she walked toward Maple Street, shadows lurked in the corners of her vision, whispering secrets she couldn't quite grasp. Steeling herself for the unknown, she pressed on. With every step, the weight of the secrets she sought pressed down on her. It was as if Millbrook itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what she would uncover. When she turned onto Maple Street, the surroundings shifted. The pleasant homes gave way to older buildings, the shadows deepening as the sun dipped lower behind the horizon. Peggy glanced at the map, tucked securely in her pocket, its lines etched in her mind like a guiding star. Finally, she arrived at 303 Maple Street, an old two-story building that felt out of place among its well-kept neighbors. The windows were coated in a layer of dust, and the wooden sign above the door, creaking slightly in the autumn breeze, read, "Garrett's Used and Rare Books." Peggy felt a shiver run down her spine. It was as if she had stepped into a different time. As she approached, Peggy was met with an unsettling quiet. The door, worn by time, stood firmly shut. She tried the handle, but it refused to budge, locked against her. A sense of urgency rose within her. She had come too far to turn back now. Peggy glanced around, her imagination racing. Perhaps there was another way in, something hidden from sight. She moved along the side of the building, her heart pounding as she scanned for any signs of entry. As she reached the back, she noticed a small window, framed by ivy and neglect. The glass was grimy, and she could barely see through it, but it was slightly ajar, just enough to give her a glimmer of hope. Taking a deep breath, she glanced around to ensure no one was watching. With determination fueling her, she approached the window and carefully pushed it open, feeling a rush of excitement and dread wash over her. The air buzzed with energy, remnants of magic both enticing and foreboding. She climbed through, the narrow opening barely accommodating her shoulders. Tiny specks of debris swirled in the weak sunlight as she slipped into the shadowy space, a musty smell of aged paper and leather enveloping her senses.